Hi, I'm Kara Schuler. I'm the developmental editor of SilvergrainClassics magazine. Our friends at JOBO brought out a whole bunch of different developing kits recently, and I get to test them all, which is pretty cool. Today, I have the ECN2 kit, which is for cinefilm, motion picture film. I don't have any Super 8 or 16 millimeter film to shoot right now, but I do have some film from our friends over at SilvergrainClassics, which is also motion picture film for still photography. And I'm going to be using this really cool Leica R4. This is actually a great budget Leica, which we feel has kind of gotten a bad reputation for no real good reason. We had an interesting article about that on our issue 7. And the lens is a 35-70 millimeter. Now this setup is actually, it's a really good value if you're looking to have a really good quality camera setup, and it's not too heavy and it's not too bulky. So I'm really looking forward to getting out and shooting some film today. Like I said, it's going to be SilvergrainClassics, and I'm just going to go shoot some film and then come back and test out this kit. We're back at the Silvergrain Studio lab now, and before we start developing anything, obviously we have to get all the stuff together that you need. This you need 4 normal plastic containers and 4 beakers. Obviously they should be clearly labeled because you never want to have like any sort of little rest of the chemicals that you used last time in the wrong beaker. That's always a bad idea. For this ECN2 process, you also need a large container for the pre-bath, because it's kind of like some medicines. You can't just break it in half and think that you will have the right amount of medicine. It's the same thing with this powder. You really have to mix it all up at once. You can't just mix up part of it. So that's why you need the big container for that. I only have 1 film to develop today, so I don't need to mix up all the rest of the chemicals, all of them, because the shelf lives aren't so long. The pre-bath has a very long shelf life. You can mix it up and that'll keep for a really long time, not a problem. But some of the other ones don't have more than a week shelf life once they've been diluted. So you really want to only mix up the amount that you need. I'm only going to be doing 1 film today, so I'm going to make 500 milliliters. The kit makes 2.5 liters of solution, and that is for up to 30 films. I'm going to be using an automatic processor today, but if you're going to be doing it by hand, then you would also need to have a thermometer and a timer. Not a whole lot of people have tried out this ECN2 developing process for cinefilm. It's not been around for all that long that, you can take the cinefilm for still cameras and all that kind of thing. And but we know that more and more people are shooting the film, also Super 8 and 16 millimeter. So it's very cool to have this process to do it at home. But one thing you have to be aware of is that this extra pre-bath process is extremely important for some of the films that are cinefilms that don't already have the remjet layer removed, like SilvergrainClassics that we'd be using today. And if you're shooting any kind of Super 8 or 16 millimeter film. Now the remjet layer is it's almost a sooty substance, and it really protects the back of the film when it's going through at high speed through the cinema film cameras. And that's really important also to protect the camera, because it can build up static electricity and all sorts of stuff in there. So you have to remove that before you can develop the film. So I'm really happy with the results. As you'd expect from a company like JOBO, it's a high quality product, gives great results. But before I really get into the results and the use of the kit, let me just talk a little bit about this camera, the Leica R4 that I used. At SilvergrainClassics, we tend to think that the R4 has an undeservedly bad rep. It's actually kind of like an entry drug for Leica cameras. It's not as expensive as the M's. You can get great glass for it. It's got auto and manual functions. Our intern, who's quite young, just got one. She loves it. And we were also speaking to Stefan Danja, who's otherwise known as Mr. M of Leica, because he saved the M series production, but that's a whole nother story. He was telling us that he has an R4 that he absolutely loves. He thinks the design is beautiful and he's never going to sell his. So that's just my little pitch for the R4 before we get going with the kit. We are really happy to see another ECN2 kit come onto the market because so many photographers are excited about shooting cinefilm and they're still cameras. And there's a lot of different brands that are now coming out with their own, it's basically recanned Vision 3 film from Kodak in a lot of different packages. But there are two different types actually, the ones that already have the remjet layer removed and the ones that don't. The nice thing about this kit is that it will work for either one. So I think that's actually a good thing in a way, because you don't have to necessarily know. You can just buy it and you know it'll work for your film, and then later you can kind of research, do I actually need to do the remjet removal process? If you don't need to do the remjet removal, you can probably sell the remjet remover on its own, because a lot of people are looking to soup their films themselves and appreciate having a reliable remjet removal process. And this one was super easy to use. It worked really well. It worked better than some of the other professional kits we've tried, and a lot better than some of the kind of weird soups that people are trying to push on the internet. So that was a pleasant surprise with this kit. One thing I should say though is that if you're planning on doing remjet removal, or the whole ECN2 process actually, with your home processor, then you have to be sure that it can do 41 degrees, which is higher than some home processors can do. So definitely check that before you buy the kit. ECN2 is a standardized process. You don't have the choice of a 3-bath or 6-bath like you do with some other processes. That means that this JOBO kit is also pretty standard. All the developing times are standardized and all that kind of thing. The only thing that you have a choice about is whether to use this pre-bath or not. If you are going to use it, then I would say one thing you should be aware of is that you do have to mix up the entire batch, 2.5 liters at once. And that does take some time. So definitely use warm water. Don't try to do it in cold water. And just be aware, that you maybe should start that a little bit in advance of when you want to actually do the developing, because it will take a while to dissolve all of that powder. Yeah, that pre-bath does have a really long shelf life. So you can definitely mix it up in advance, and that would be my recommendation. My recommendation for JOBO would be, it would be great if you could sell the components of this kit separately, because it does happen. You mix up one part that doesn't have such a long shelf life, and then you find that that part is actually no longer good, but you do have leftovers of the other chemicals, and it would be great to be able to just buy the part that you need. It would be more environmentally friendly. So JOBO, if you're listening, maybe that would be something you could offer in the future. We did end up mixing up more than we would need for just the one film, because we're going to be developing some Super 8 film. And I think that's really cool that more and more people are starting to develop their own small gauge film. So great that we have another kit that can help them out. If you want to see the results of our Super 8 development, then you should check out our blog that's at SilvergrainClassics.com. Because we'll be posting stuff about it there. We often have little things for cinematographers, like our friend Tom Kuhl was recently at the Kodak Awards in Los Angeles and wrote for us about that. But there's also all sorts of different topics there for film photographers and just community stories. So it'd be great if you could go and check that out. And if you use this kit at home and have some results that you'd like to share with us, we would really be interested in that. Our email address is info@silvergrainclassics.com. And we will now put a screen that says where you can buy this kit if we've convinced you that you'd like to try it.